Unexpectedly, a shoeless girl stunned a millionaire CEO. Discover how one decision changed everything. Emma felt the cool concrete beneath her bare feet as she raced down the street, heart hammering and pulse quickening. The science fair awaited, and every step felt monumental. Today was more than just an event. It was her moment. Clutching her prototype for a sustainable energy device, she imagined the eyes of Judge Jack Whitaker on her, a wealthy CEO with a reputation for spotting ingenuity a mile away. The thought sent her stomach swirling. Did she truly belong among the polished suits and tech-savvy entrepreneurs? The morning mist clung to her worn jeans and frayed t-shirt, her appearance starkly contrasting with the crisp attire of her peers. Could they see her ambition past her ragged soles? She fought to shake off the voices of doubt, yet they echoed painfully, a reminder of her humble beginnings, the assumptions others made about her worth. She hoped beyond hope that her passion for science would overpower their skepticism. But the stakes felt unnervingly high, as if the fabric of her dreams was woven with threads of uncertainty. As she approached the venue, heart racing, self-doubt coursed through her veins. This project represented her future. It was her ticket out of the mundane. The elevation of her family's meager life depended on its success. Yet was it enough? She glanced at the elegantly dressed contestants, their confident laughter contrasting starkly with her own turmoil. Her legs trembled slightly as she prepared her display. Would they welcome her ideas or dismiss her altogether? Moments later, Jack's presence loomed over her. His inquisitive gaze roamed over her invention, and the thrill of his attention sparked something wild inside her. She hesitated, questions swirling. A first taste of opportunity, but at what cost? What if he sees through me? Her mind raced as she recounted the tales her mother spun about integrity, the constant reminder that true success didn't come at the cost of one's values, but the crushing weight of ambition threatened to shatter her resolve. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet, as Emma's confidence grew with Jack's genuine interest, the gnawing sensation turned to anguish. She discovered that his company wanted to patent her idea and had no intention of recognizing her as the creator. The storm inside her raged. Could she sacrifice her vision in exchange for a skyrocketing career?
The fear that gripped her was suffocating. What if this moment led her down a path where she lost herself striving for success? With each passing heartbeat, the silence between them grew heavier. "Emma, we can make this breakthrough together," Jack encouraged, but his words felt like shackles, not promises. The costs of ambition now loomed large, and she felt suspended between aspirations and personal principles, caught in a moral vortex. As she confronted her burgeoning doubts, a pressing realization crystallized. In pursuing her dreams, was she destined to betray every lesson her mother taught her? Emma's breath hitched, the anguish building as she stared into the depths of her uncertain future, torn between the glimmering allure of success and the integrity she held dear. The audience and her dreams felt tantalizingly close, yet painfully out of reach, while she stood on the edge of decision. Would she risk it all, fight for recognition, or step back, preserving her values, but potentially losing her chance? The choice was hers, but the consequences could change everything. Emma stood frozen, the cacophony of the fair fading into a distant murmur. A single thought crystallized amidst the swirling chaos of anxiety. If she accepted Jack's proposal, her name would be lost in the shadows of corporate anonymity. But if she walked away, would she still ever be seen? She wrestled with her thoughts, a battle unfolding within her, a tempest of ambition clashing against her deeply rooted principles. In that moment, clarity washed over her. This wasn't just about a project, it was a reflection of who she was. She visualized each component of her invention, hours spent tinkering and refining, the late nights spent lost in research, every trial and error etched in her memory. Wasn't every bit of that worth fighting for? Her mother's stories echoed in her mind. Integrity is your most valuable currency. But what good was that currency if she couldn't survive? Jack's gaze was piercing, and she felt an urge to respond, to justify her hesitation. "You believe in this, don't you?" he pressed, the desire for collaboration evident. Yet with each passing second, Emma felt another layer of pressure, not from Jack alone, but from her own expectations. Everyone said she had potential, but did they truly understand the emotional weight of those words? "Emma," Jack's voice sliced through her reverie, bringing her back to the moment. He sounded desperate now, as if he sensed her wavering. Yet she remained resolute, steeling herself against the tide of fear threatening to drag her under. This was not just about recognition. It was about authenticity. "I need to think," she finally whispered. The words felt empowering, a seed of strength breaking through her uncertainty. She stepped back, creating an invisible boundary, forcing Jack, and herself, to confront the reality of what was at stake.
She had navigated through treacherous waters before. This felt similar, a defining point teetering on the edge of compromise. In the following minutes, she retreated slightly from the thrumming ambiance of the fair, her prototype still clutched closely. The outside world faded as she assessed her priorities. The weight of her invention filled her with purpose. It represented more than personal gain. It symbolized her commitment to changing the narrative of her life. This energy device wasn't merely a project. It was a lifeline for the environment, and it could spark a shift. A flicker of determination ignited within her. If she truly wanted to make a difference, embodying the visionary she longed to be meant taking risks, learning to navigate the complexities of ambition without forsaking her core values. She no longer felt like an imposter in that moment. She felt empowered, and with that empowerment came the realization that she could redefine success on her own terms. As she paced, a decision began to take shape. This would be about more than the endorsement of a powerful figure. She would forge her own path. The question remained how to do it while staying true to her vision and integrity. As Emma prepared to approach Jack again, her mind raced with possibilities. Could she negotiate with him, presenting a plan that ensured recognition and partnership rather than surrender? Focusing on the dialogue ahead, an array of possibilities unfurled in her mind, each one brighter than the last. Yet beneath her excitement lingered a hint of doubt as she neared Jack once more. She couldn't shake the nagging feeling that even if she emerged victorious today, the true test awaited her around the corner. As she made her way back to him, she sensed that every step she took would either tether her more tightly to her dreams or plunge her into disillusionment. The moment had come to face the reality of her choices. Would her next decision elevate her or choke her aspirations? Emma inhaled deeply as she stepped into the tide of judgment, ready to advocate for herself, whatever the outcome. Emma's heart raced as she approached Jack, each step marked by an increasing determination. She could feel the weight of her prototype in her hands, a tangible representation of her vision and effort. It wasn't merely a device. It was her declaration, a symbol of her refusal to disappear into the corporate murkiness. "Jack," she began, her voice steadier than she felt, "I've thought about your offer. I want to partner, but it has to be on my terms. I need to retain ownership of my design and ensure it's developed with my vision." Jack's brows knitted together, and for the briefest moment, uncertainty flickered across his confident facade. "Emma, this isn't just about you. We have the resources to make this invention global, to change lives. You could be at the forefront of that change." "And I could lose everything that matters to me," she countered, feeling a surge of adrenaline course through her. "This invention isn't just for profit. It's about making a real impact. I won't let it be diluted by the corporate interests that prioritize profit over purpose." Jack studied her, a mix of frustration and intrigue flaring in his eyes. "Do you really think you can stand alone in this? The world runs on partnerships. No one achieves success solo anymore." His words gnawed at her insecurities, the familiar whispers of doubt creeping in. Was she being foolish? Yet a deeper part of her resisted. She'd spent so long crafting this vision, infusing it with her ideals. "I'm not saying I want to do it alone," she responded, her voice firmer. "I want to build something together that respects both our visions. If that's not possible, then I'll walk away." For a moment, the silence hung thick with tension. She felt exposed under Jack's piercing gaze, her vulnerability stripped bare. Could she really turn her back on the opportunity to expand her invention, to elevate it to a level she had never imagined? "And what if I say no to your conditions?" Jack challenged, crossing his arms. "You risk losing everything, Emma. I'm offering you a chance that could change your life." "Perhaps," she replied, the tremor of uncertainty replaced by a newfound resolve. "But it will be on my terms or not at all. I refuse to sacrifice my identity or integrity for something short-lived." Jack's expression shifted, a mix of surprise and respect flickering in his eyes. Maybe he hadn't expected her to stand her ground. Maybe the emotional stakes of authenticity resonated even with someone like him.
"I admire your conviction," he finally acknowledged, his voice quieter. "Let's say I consider your proposal." Her breath hitched slightly at the glimmer of hope. "Let's draw up a plan together, a strategy where our goals align. I want recognition for my role, and I want our partnership to embrace sustainability, not just profit." "Fair enough," Jack replied slowly. "I'll need time to think about the terms, but I'm willing to come back to you with a proposal." Emma felt a mix of exhilaration and apprehension. This was not a traditional business negotiation. It was a profound shift in her understanding of partnership. Could she create a collaboration that celebrated both their strengths while preserving her integrity? As they began laying the groundwork for their dialogue, Emma felt a shift within herself. She was navigating the complexities of ambition, but instead of compromising her core values, she had discovered her ability to forge a new frontier of collaboration. The conversation continued, and Emma couldn't shake the feeling that while she had taken steps in the right direction, the true test of her beliefs was yet to come.
With each passing moment, she was aware that one misstep could still lead her down a path of compromise, but she was determined to tread carefully. As the sun began to dip, casting long shadows across the bustling fairgrounds, her thoughts raced. What other challenges awaited her as she embarked on this uncharted path of negotiation and growth? Suddenly, her phone buzzed in her pocket, a text from her mentor, an uncertain reminder of the stakes involved. "Emma, are you ready? Decision time is approaching." What did she truly want from this partnership, and was she prepared for the consequences if it didn't align with her vision? Emma felt a rush of uncertainty mixed with her newfound strength as she stepped further into the unknown, the path ahead filled with both promise and peril. With the weight of the moment pressing down, Emma paced slowly along the side of the fairgrounds, the rhythmic crunch of gravel matching her heartbeat. She replayed her conversation with Jack, dissecting every word, every pause. The gravity of her decisions loomed larger than she anticipated, and the stakes felt higher than they'd ever been. Reality pulsed around her. Voices murmured nearby, laughter echoed, yet she felt distanced from the crowd. This was no longer just about her invention. It had morphed into a battle of principles, of personal ownership versus collaboration. It felt surreal to realize that a single meeting had reshaped the contours of her trajectory, forcing her to confront the deeper desires she had suppressed for far too long. "Decision time," she muttered to herself, the text from her mentor replaying in her mind like a mantra. Was she really ready? As the sun dipped lower, casting longer shadows in the twilight, Emma sensed she was standing on the precipice of a pivotal transformation, one that demanded both clarity and courage. Determined to sort through her thoughts, she retreated to a quiet corner, a less trafficked area where the hum of the fair faded. Igniting her notes app, she poured her ideas, fears, and aspirations into a stream of text. Each keystroke felt cathartic, a raw catharsis of everything she refused to suppress any longer. "I want it to be more than a product," she typed fiercely. "It has to inspire, promote change, have the potential to redefine lives." But doubt gnawed at her. What if her ideals clashed with reality? What if, in her pursuit of authenticity, she remained invisible in a world driven by profit? What sacrifices was she willing to make to protect her vision? A vivid recollection pierced her thoughts. Back in her early days as an engineer, when she had fought hard to carve her niche in a male-dominated field. The challenges were relentless, but each setback solidified her resolve. Yet here she was again, circling the same fears as if trapped in a cycle. Had she truly grown, or was she still playing the survivor instead of the architect of her fate? Her fingers paused mid-type as a new realization dawned. The courage to negotiate was more than just standing her ground. It was about embracing the evolution of her desires and dreams. She considered the possibility that partnerships didn't have to compromise her identity. What if she could incorporate her vision within a larger framework, but still maintain her ownership? Could that be the key? Glancing over her notes, she suddenly felt a rush of ideas, strategies to protect her design while ensuring it adapted to the needs of a broader audience. She envisioned avenues where her values echoed within an aligned partnership, each designed to complement the other's strengths. The thought sparked energy in her veins. As her mind raced with possibilities, Emma was interrupted by a gentle tap on her shoulder. Startled, she turned to see Jack leaning against a nearby fence, his expression unreadable but undeniably intrigued. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop," he began, his tone an unusual blend of curiosity and respect. "What are you doing here?" Emma shot back, an uncertain edge reflecting her vulnerability.
"I was thinking about our conversation," he admitted, crossing his arms defensively. "You have some compelling points, but I want to understand more about what you truly want to achieve. Let's explore this together, but I need you to be clear about your vision, exactly how you foresee this partnership playing out." The moment hung in the air like a thread waiting to be twisted into something meaningful. An opportunity loomed, but so did the familiar swirl of doubt. Could she share her deepest ideas and ambitions without compromising the integrity of her prototype? Emma felt the pull of the forked road. Harnessing her newfound determination to articulate her vision to Jack could lead to a richer partnership, one that might amplify her influence in ways she'd only imagined. She took a deep breath, determined to embrace this moment. In that tension-filled instant, she realized the importance of articulating not just a partnership, but a legacy. "I want to create something revolutionary, not just for profit, but to uplift lives," she finally stated, the conviction in her voice echoing fiercely against the backdrop of her deepest fears. Jack's gaze intensified, and the air thrummed with possibility. "Then let's start there." As they stood on the brink of discourse, each poised to reshape their partnership, the weight of what lay ahead pressed closer. Emma could sense the potential of an impending confrontation with the very essence of her beliefs. How far was she willing to go to protect her vision? The next few moments would determine the course of her path, but in that instant, they were both acutely aware. The true negotiation had just begun. A shiver ran down Emma's spine as she locked eyes with Jack. The last remnants of her doubt collided with the urgency of the moment.
How could she ensure her vision would not only be heard, but withstand the intricate dynamics of partnership? The faint din of voices around them faded as she weighed her options, feeling both exhilarated and terrified by the uncertainty. "Jack," she began, her voice steadier than she felt inside, "I've put in years of my life to design something that can genuinely change people's experiences. But change doesn't come easy. I want this to resonate with people, not just as a fad, but as a real improvement in how they navigate their day." With each word, the adrenaline surged through her, igniting a spark of advocacy she hadn't voiced so openly before. Jack's expression flickered, the initial curiosity replaced by something darker, calculation. "And how do you plan to achieve that? Vision is one thing, Emma. Execution is another beast altogether." The challenge in his eyes gave her pause. He wasn't just here to listen, he was testing her resolve. Emma took a breath, refusing to back down. "I plan to utilize data, listen to users, and adapt based on feedback, incorporating not just innovation, but empathy too. What's the point of creating something brilliant if it disconnects from the real-world struggles of the people I aim to help?" The corner of Jack's mouth twitched, perhaps in approval or amusement. "That's a tall order. It sounds like you want to breathe life into this product, and not just run it like any business venture. But many investors don't want visionaries. They want assurance." The realization struck her hard. Investments came from a place of security. The risk lay in her ideals, but there existed the daunting possibility of losing her essence in exchange for stability. Yet wasn't keeping her vision alive the most vital component of any partnership? "I need to ensure my core vision remains intact. Investing in metrics and data will be crucial, yes, but not at the expense of the heart of what I'm creating," she stated, her voice unwavering. Jack tilted his head, intrigued. "What if we created a framework, a model to demonstrate how your approach can yield profitability while addressing user needs? It could showcase what you define as success without dimming your passion. But you have to start by trusting that the numbers can back your vision." The authenticity of his words catalyzed something in Emma, a shift brewing within her. She considered the balance of artistry and pragmatism. Perhaps numbers didn't have to be the enemy. They could serve as a measure of the impact she wanted to achieve. "But we need to agree on this from the start. I won't compromise on authenticity or put aside my values for mere sales figures. If that's not something you can get behind, then this partnership won't work." She felt a fire surge within her, a blend of fear and empowerment coursing through her as she made her stance clear. Jack's eyes narrowed, recognizing the steel in her voice. "I think you could speak to many stakeholders in that way."
But let's refine what that means in practical terms. We will need a plan that focuses not only on the long-term vision, but lets them see the larger picture as well.
Emma nodded, every word drawing her deeper into a realm of negotiation, an exchange of ideas that felt increasingly possible. By layering empathy with strategy, she could ensure she wouldn't drown in the sea of glossy pitches and uninspired products. Feeling a newfound sense of clarity, Emma was excited to explore the framework Jack suggested, confident it would remain a safeguard to her core beliefs. Yet the internal turmoil simmered, linking to the anxiety of being vulnerable in this space, the suspicion of being misheard or undervalued. Before another word could surface, Jack glanced around as if sensing the energy shifting. "Let's meet again tomorrow and flesh this out. I believe we can create something significant here." The offer hung between them, potent and vulnerable, but a question struck her. Was she prepared to navigate the potential pitfalls of partnership? To truly invest in her vision required a willingness to challenge both herself and others. "I'll visualize this arrangement and come ready with specifics. But remember, my vision matters," Emma replied evenly, though uncertainty knotted in her gut. Jack smiled, a hint of challenge underlying the familiarity. As they parted ways, her heart raced. Tomorrow would be crucial. Could she convert her aspirations into a compelling, most implemented vision? She was on the edge of her personal evolution, grappling with the intersection of self-advocacy and sacrifice. With her mind racing toward the fast-approaching negotiation, Emma felt a sense of resolve settling in. It was time to transform her abstract dreams into actionable reality. But as the night crept in, a familiar unease whispered, what if Jack's ambitions didn't align as substantially as they seemed? Hidden complexities often lay in the fabric of collaboration. Would tomorrow uncover the real essence of their partnership, or would the true battle lie in safeguarding her vision amidst whispers of compromise? Emma arrived at the cafe early, the morning sun streaming through the windows, painting the space with a warm glow that belied the storm brewing in her mind. She sipped her coffee, the rich taste grounding her as she reflected on the challenge ahead. She had spent the night molding her thoughts into a coherent plan, a balance of passion and practicality, a delicate dance between her ideals and the realities of the business world. As she waited for Jack, she grappled with the weight of her aspirations. For years, she had nurtured a vision that encapsulated hope, purpose, and the potential to touch lives. Yet the looming question remained, how would her clarity of purpose hold up against the sharp tongue of capitalism? Would she crumble under the pressure to conform, or would she emerge stronger?
Jack entered, exuding the kind of confidence that came from years of success. He approached with a smile, but there was a resoluteness in his stride that unsettled Emma. She had admired his strategic mind from the start, yet the thought of negotiating her vision felt like standing at a precipice, ready to leap into the unknown. "Good morning, Emma. Ready to solidify this vision of yours?" Jack asked, his tone light but his eyes glimmering with intent. "Definitely," she said, her voice unwavering. "I've mapped out a framework that aligns metrics with the core of my vision. We can illustrate how user feedback directly informs our decisions without sacrificing integrity." The words flowed from her lips, tinged with the thrill of conviction. This was her moment. Jack leaned in, intrigued. "Let's dive in then. Show me what you've got." As she laid out her plan, she noticed how effortlessly she shifted from insecurity to authority, gaining momentum with each new detail. Here, in this space, her vision took shape, actualized, tangible. The numbers backed her passion. Each statistic and anecdote underscored her message. Yet as Jack pushed for deeper analysis and potential profitability, Emma felt a small knot of unease twist in her stomach. Was she crafting a plan or submitting to a system that might dilute her essence? The pressure to satisfy the metrics clawed at her. Could the two coexist harmoniously, or would she be merely a cog in Jack's well-oiled machine? "Emma," Jack interrupted her thoughts, leaning back slightly, weighing her propositions. "This sounds promising, but how do we ensure users connect emotionally? Metrics are vital, but they don't always convey the real story." It felt like a challenge, a gauntlet thrown at her feet to rise to his expectations. "Exactly," she countered, her pulse quickening. "I believe we can develop a dual approach, one that prioritizes human narratives alongside data insights. We need to create touchpoints that resonate on a deeper emotional level." The determination crystallized in her voice. It was not just about figures, it was about people. Jack's eyebrows raised, revealing a glimpse of newfound respect. "That's the spark I'm looking for. Let's build on it. But remember, the more we showcase this emotional engagement, the more attractive it becomes to potential investors. They need that bond to feel secure in investments." Emma nodded, her mind racing with possibilities.
She found herself leaning into the conversation, driven by the belief in her approach, empowered to reshape the narrative bent on mere profitability. However, a nagging thought punctured our momentum. What if Jack wasn't only a partner, but a potential adversary, someone whose ambition threats to overshadow her core values? Could she maintain her ground while navigating this intricate alliance?
The tension shifted when Jack casually mentioned a meeting later that week with a high-profile investor, someone who could fuel their project's momentum, but also required a glossy facade. Emma felt her breath catch. The pressure was mounting. "I want to emphasize the authentic engagement," she replied, frustration creeping into her tone. "We can't compromise the user's experience merely for appearances. If we do that, what's the point of what we're building?" Her heart pounded, unsure if she was crossing an unseen line. The stakes felt infinitely higher now, testing what she was willing to risk for her vision. Jack held her gaze, questions swirling in his expression, before he finally nodded. "Fair enough, but we need to find a balance that aligns with both hearts and numbers." As they wrapped up their discussion, Emma felt both empowered and vulnerable, standing on the knife edge of potential failure and monumental success. With every keystroke and rapport-building moment, she was chiseling away at who she was becoming. Was that someone strong enough to hold on to her ideals, or capable of molding them for the greater good? As she left, the question echoed in her mind. Could she foster an environment where intimacy and innovation thrived, or would ambition overshadow authenticity? The clarity she sought felt just beyond her grasp, and the sense of urgency thickened around her as they approached the investors' meeting. Tomorrow would reveal all. Would she navigate this new terrain successfully, or would she find herself swallowed by a world of compromises? The answers loomed, just waiting to be uncovered. As Emma crossed the city streets toward her office, the cacophony of honking horns and bustling crowds felt strangely muted. The weight of her impending meeting with the investor pressed heavily upon her shoulders. Her mind raced with the synthesis of Jack's expectations and her own ideals. Could she stand her ground when the stakes were so high? She arrived early, the familiar scent of brewing coffee greeting her as she entered the office. Yet the air felt thick with anticipation. Each desk echoed the relentless rhythm of productivity, but Emma's focus was inward. Although she had equipped herself with data and anecdotes to sway the investor, she worried about how to convey the subtleties of her vision, the emotional foundation underpinning her project. In the quiet moments leading up to the pitch, Emma pulled out her notes. She knew her analytics were formidable, but she also needed testimonials, the stories that had kindled her passion. Drawing inspiration from those narratives felt like digging deep into the well of her experience. Could she translate that fire into a language fluent in investor demands? When Jack walked in, his confidence radiated throughout the room. "Ready to wow them?" he asked, lips curving into a competitive grin. His presence ignited a duality within Emma. There was admiration for his experience, but also the prickling sensation of being overshadowed. "I am," she replied, surprising herself with the firmness of her voice. "But I think we need to present our story authentically. It's the emotional connection that they'll remember, not just the charts." She observed Jack's reaction, curious if her insistence would resonate. "Agreed, but let's make sure our emotional appeal aligns seamlessly with the numbers. Investors want to see the potential for profit." His response held a note of challenge, but in it also lay a flicker of agreement. They moved into the investor meeting room, a polished space bustling with energy. As they settled in, Emma stole glances at the room, identifying key players in the conversation. The investor appeared shrewd, his stony demeanor folded tightly into a tailored suit, eyes alert for weaknesses. Jack opened the meeting, diving straight into financial projections. Emma felt herself retreat within her own mind, overshadowed by complex figures that glided smoothly off Jack's tongue. The tension thickened, augmenting her earlier unease. She contested with self-doubt, questioning if she could withstand the financial tide that threatened to drown her vision. As Jack detailed profit margins, a flicker of panic surged through Emma. How could she inject soul into these numbers? Just as she considered retreating further into quietness, the urge to start speaking overpowered her hesitation. If we could share how our users genuinely resonate with our platform, it could paint a vivid picture beyond mere data. The investor leaned closer, intrigue momentarily peeking in his gaze. Jack glanced at Emma, a silent encouragement urging her to continue. "We've had countless messages from users expressing their life transformations. One young woman described how our project made her feel seen and valued in a world where she had felt invisible. These connections fuel our growth, and if we can foster a deeper bond with our community, it could lead to sustainable profitability."
As she spoke, Emma found her voice growing stronger, the emotional edge piercing the corporate veneer. A momentary silence settled in the room. She recognized that she had transformed a timid whisper into a powerful assertion. The investor's expression shifted. Skepticism melted slightly, curiosity unraveling in its place. Jack offered a slight nod, acknowledging the gamble Emma had taken. "It's about more than just money, isn't it?" the investor finally spoke, tilting his head as if reflecting on her words. "It's about legacy." The buzz of the room electrified Emma's courage. In that moment, she realized that she wasn't simply pitching numbers. She was investing in a narrative, one she had crafted through heart and hard-earned experience. Emma left the meeting energized but grappling with unease. Had she crossed the dividing line between compassion and capitalist ambition?
While she had invoked the emotional core of her vision, had she inadvertently positioned herself as a player within Jack's calculated game? As her thoughts swirled, she decided to reach out for support. She called her mentor, who always knew how to pierce through her self-doubt. "Emma," her mentor's voice filled with familiarity, "what's your next move? You faced a challenge, but that's only half the journey. The real test is whether you'll let go of your essence for profit or let it grow alongside success." Emma paused, the weight of those words igniting a resolve she had yet to confront fully. She was standing at a crossroads, decisions looming larger than ever. Would she champion her vision even if it meant facing resistance, or risk losing herself in the pursuit of validation and financial success? The moment of truth approached, and with it the challenge of staying true to herself. Emma's heart raced as she anticipated the next meeting, where her resolve would be put to the ultimate test. Emma woke up the next morning feeling a mix of exhilaration and dread. That last meeting had unearthed deeper currents within her, currents that now demanded her attention. Standing in front of her mirror, she practiced her pitch, each word infused with new conviction. She wasn't just a cog in the corporate machine anymore. She was a storyteller, an advocate for her vision. But could she truly marry her heart with business acumen? Driven by a newfound purpose, Emma decided it was time to revisit her community project. The small nonprofit she had founded in her apartment, once dormant amid the relentless push of corporate life, was calling her back. It wasn't merely an escape, it was a reminder of why she ventured into this realm in the first place. She took a deep breath, feeling the resolve crystallizing within her. Would the world respond to a softer approach, especially in a landscape dominated by fierce competitiveness? Taking a short walk to the local coffee shop, she pulled out her laptop and began to draft plans for the upcoming community initiative she had long neglected. The owner of the shop, a middle-aged man with a warm smile, recognized her immediately. "Back for more ideas, Emma?" he asked, his cheerful demeanor contrasting with the intensity of her thoughts. "Yes," Emma said, looking up from her screen. "I'm trying to figure out how to merge these two worlds." She motioned to her laptop, where charts, community stories, and testimonials were scattered across the screen. The man's eyebrows raised in understanding. The conversation flowed easily, each shared story helping articulate her vision for community engagement. Through these earnest exchanges, Emma realized that her past experiences, the setbacks, the small victories, could inform and enrich her corporate narrative. The passion she had cultivated in her projects not only imbued her personal growth, but could serve as a powerful asset in her professional realm.
Later at the office, Emma approached Jack with her new ideas for integrating community-oriented content into their investment pitch. She was met with an amused yet skeptical glance. "You know investors won't buy into feel-good stories without tangible returns, right?" he remarked, still leaning heavily into the numbers. "I'm not saying we abandon profits, Jack," Emma replied, maintaining her ground. "But taking a human-centered approach could dramatically enhance our appeal. Investors are increasingly looking for brands that resonate on a personal level. If we weave our users' stories in, we showcase not just potential profit, but also real impact." Jack crossed his arms, a definitive frown marking his usually confident face. "Stories are all well and good, but you need to keep your focus. This is a business pitch, not a therapist's couch." Emma felt a swell of indignation rising within her. While she wished for collaboration, she had to challenge the instinct to contract back into herself. "I know it's a business pitch, but we have to stand for something beyond numbers. If we don't, we risk losing our authenticity." The words hung in the air, charged with the weight of her resolve. She could see Jack weighing her suggestion, his confidence crackling against her fervor. "Okay, let's test it," he said finally, a hint of uncertainty evident in his words. "But you need to convince the rest of the team that this isn't a distraction. You're walking a tightrope." As they began crafting a new presentation together, Emma felt the dual currents running through her, an urgency to uphold her vision despite the constraints of corporate expectations,
and a budding acknowledgement of her agency in this landscape. She was no longer merely absorbing the thoughts of those around her. She was contributing her own increasingly robust perspective. Yet, as they shaped the pitch, the reminder of resistance loomed. Jack's doubt was one thing, but the true test awaited in the boardroom. Could she stand before seasoned investors and connect the dots between profit and purpose without losing the essence of what she believed in? Gathering her presentation materials later that night, Emma felt like she was on the brink of a breakthrough, but a nagging fear continued to gnaw at her. What if her ideas were dismissed as naive? The moment of truth was drawing near, and she was determined to face it head-on. As she gazed out her window, thoughts swirling, it became clear. This was more than just a presentation. It was a defining moment that could either solidify her place in the corporate world or leave her yearning for fulfillment outside of it. And just like that, she realized the next chapter in her journey was waiting, unfurling its edges with unanswered questions. How would she balance ambition with authenticity? What sacrifices would she need to make? And what truths would she have to confront to stay committed to her vision?
The answers felt closer than ever, yet dauntingly out of reach. Emma sat at her desk the next morning, the scattered pages of her pitch reflecting the turmoil brewing inside her. The sun streamed through the office windows, casting patterns of light and shadow that felt rife with tension. Her psyching routine, usually a stabilizing force, did little to manage the anxiety swarming her thoughts. What if investors saw her as just another young executive trying to garnish profit with superficiality? Determined not to let self-doubt sink her, she revisited her notes. The essence of her project lay not just in grand ideals, but in human connection. How could she convey the profound impact of their investment on real lives without sounding contrived? The fear was palpable, a brick sitting heavy in her stomach. "Emma," Jack's voice broke through her concentration, startling her. He leaned against the doorframe with a hint of skepticism in his eyes. "Ready for today? You seem a bit lost." "Just preparing," she replied, steering her thoughts back to the pitch. "I want to ensure we have a compelling narrative. Stories that resonate can drive impact more than numbers alone." "Resonate or drown?" Jack's chuckle held a hint of challenge that ignited a flicker of irritation within her. "I know you're passionate, but tread carefully." Emma took a steadying breath. Time was fleeting. What if we presented the metrics with the community stories interwoven instead of as separate entities? By placing value on both, we could showcase a holistic view of impact. He raised an eyebrow, appraising her suggestion. "Balance, huh?" A spark ignited in her. "Exactly. It's about integrating the emotional and the analytical, showing investors how relationship building can result in loyalty and long-term gains." She could feel the shift in the air, the potential of clarity mingling with her underlying anxiety. Jack nodded slowly. "Let's see how the others take it." With her heart racing, Emma joined the team gathering for the pitch. Each face around the table bore the marks of their own struggles and convictions, and she wondered if they could grasp her vision. The room thrummed with anticipation, but static tension clung to her like a second skin. As she stepped to the front, gripping the remote in her palm, a mix of fear and exhilaration consumed her. The first few slides showcased cold statistics, the expected corporate display, and then it was time to pivot. She exhaled, channeling her conviction. "Before we dive into numbers, I'd like to share a story." The confidence in her voice surprised even her. She outlined the history of her nonprofit, recounting a narrative of triumph amidst adversity, capturing how small acts could create waves of change. A few heads nodded. She caught glimmers of curiosity. "Every investment isn't just capital, it's a lifeline," she concluded, feeling the energy shift in the room as her audience leaned in.
She continued to speak, blending data points with testimonials, illustrating how the proposed approach could foster not only profits but connection. Yet, as she glanced at Jack, his face bore traces of doubt. The pit in her stomach deepened. She had introduced her passion, but what would the board's verdict be? As the team discussed her ideas, she held her breath, riding the current between hope and fear. Finally, one of the senior partners, a veteran of the industry, leaned forward. "It's ambitious, Emma, a blend of heart and numbers. But are we ready to risk our reputation on a narrative?" The tension mounted as her mind raced back to those moments in the coffee shop, remembering how her passion not only defined her vision, but her identity. Emma stood before them, more than just an employee. She was the intrinsic voice of change within the corporate framework. "Change requires courage," she said resolutely, meeting the partner's gaze. "But the most successful companies adapt to the evolving desires of the market. To truly resonate, we need to embody a purpose, showing that business can indeed be a force for good, without sacrificing profitability." The silence that followed echoed around the room like a tightening rubber band. Would they embrace the authenticity she desperately sought to convey,
Or would they retreat into the safety of conventionality? She felt the weight of their collective gaze digging deep into her resolve. The moment stretched, the stakes rising with each passing second. She sensed that a pivotal decision loomed, not just for her career, but for who she might become. As the partner leaned back, rubbing his chin thoughtfully, it became clear. Emma's journey was about to intersect with her deepest fears or soaring triumphs. How much was she willing to risk for her vision? And would she find allies in unexpected places? Or would she stand alone? With hearts pounding and futures uncharted, the next chapter awaited, rich with consequences tied to her bold choices. Emma stood confidently on the stage, the familiar thrill of anticipation rippling through her veins as she addressed the audience of attendees at the annual Tech Expo. The journey that brought her here felt methodical, yet filled with unforeseen hurdles. The moment she had almost let fear constrict her ambitions was now a distant memory, traded for the irrepressible need to share her vision of sustainable energy with the world. The connection with the investors had solidified her sense of belonging and recognition. She was no longer merely an idea waiting for validation. She was a force of change, a creator determined to protect her vision while boldly advocating for it. The road had been tumultuous, but as she surveyed the audience's engaged faces, I saw potential allies. This was the moment she had prepared for, the culmination of countless iterations, revisions, and her unwavering resolve.
Today, I present not just a device, Emma began, her voice resonating across the auditorium. I present a purpose, a commitment to create a sustainable future through meaningful innovation. The words flowed effortlessly now, just as they had in her extensive practice sessions. Glancing at the strategic partnership she had built, she noticed Jack sitting in the front row, his expression a complex mixture of admiration and pride mixed with professional scrutiny. Her heart swelled. She had proven not only her worth to those who once doubted her, but also the viability of her vision that merged profit with purpose. As she illustrated the tangible impact of her device, amplified by the real stories of those whose lives it could change, she felt a powerful alignment between her values and professional aspirations. I've devoted years to understanding this landscape, she continued boldly, showcasing graphs and testimonials that vividly highlighted her device's social impact alongside viable financial projections. The market doesn't just want more products, it craves authentic connections. It desires innovative solutions that resonate deeply with human experiences. Emma's confidence surged as she watched the audience lean forward, engaged, intrigued. Her meticulous preparation, her fight for self-advocacy, and her transformation were coming together in a harmonious display of articulation and authenticity. With every click of the slide advancing behind her, she knew she was here to conquer, not just as a contributor, but as a game-changer. When her presentation concluded, thunderous applause echoed, enveloping her like a warm embrace. In the days that followed, the feedback cascaded in. Partnerships, investments, and opportunities flourished as her project gained the visibility it deserved. Emma basked in the acknowledgement not as an accident, but as a consequence of perseverance and self-discovery. Her journey hadn't just been about defending a prototype, it had morphed into a narrative about keeping one's heart anchored while navigating the corporate world effectively. Jack approached her office later that week, his demeanor uncharacteristically soft yet laced with respect. "Emma, I have to say, watching your evolution from an idea to a leader has been remarkable. I believe we can implement your framework, engaging users emotionally while retaining profitability." A wave of satisfaction settled within her. His acknowledgement was not just validation. It proved that her journey had led her to a position of influence, a space where her ideals could coalesce with tangible outcomes. "Thank you, Jack. Collaboration is the heartbeat of advancement. Let's make this distinctive." The weight on her shoulders lightened as she articulated how their partnership, built on mutual respect and shared values, could yield even greater results.
Emma returned to her nonprofit roots and embraced collaborations she had almost overlooked amid the hustle of the corporate world. Each connection brought her full circle, reminding her of her motivations for embarking on this journey. The encouragement from those she helped proved to be a powerful reinforcement. She had the backing of the community she had aspired to uplift. Months later, standing in front of a larger audience than she had ever imagined, she unveiled not just a product, but a movement rooted in empathy. Her presentation reflected a world where technology served humanity instead of dehumanizing it. This successful launch further affirmed her capacity to influence the market while nurturing the ideals that shaped her journey. Emma stood tall,
infused with a sense of accomplishment and unwavering vigor, as she realized that her decision to resist the pull of compromise had paved the way for not just her success, but for others to envision a better world. She had conquered her self-doubt, forged vital collaborations, and achieved a magnitude of recognition that surpassed mere accolades. With her heart swelling with pride, Emma committed herself to continual learning and shared her knowledge within her community lines. Her personal achievement was not only leaving a mark on the industry, but ensuring that the principles of connection and integrity remained vibrant in everything she did. She had transformed, emerged stronger than ever, and embraced her future, grounded in a confidence and competence that would resonate for years to come. A true advocate for change, she was ready to challenge any obstacles that emerged on her path, realizing fully that she was the architect of her destiny. Now is the time for you to take the next step. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure these inspiring narratives continue to thrive. Comment your reactions and theories about Emma's extraordinary journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is crucial. Show the world your commitment to personal growth narratives. Don't wait even one more second to make an impact.